So the Special Action Committee for Education has lost its bid to prevent the termination of 2,407 teaching posts in the Western Cape. The judge found that the matter lacked urgency and struck it off the roll with costs. SAC Chairperson Terrence Smith joins us now for more. Terrence, a good evening to you. I mean, this is a time when a lot of us are getting ready to celebrate going into 2025, and perhaps a little bit of a somber evening for the SAC as you reflect on this loss in the courts. But talk to me about why it was so important that you take the matter to the courts to protect these 2,400 jobs.
Well, as you're aware that in the Western Cape, Education Department has done away with 2,407 teacher posts. So from midnight to night, there will be 2,407 teachers out of a job. And those posts means that those reduction in posts means that classes the size of classes in our schools would be affected. The administrative burden on teachers would be affected. And the number of schools might have to drop key subjects like maths and science, music and art. So this is going to have a devastating effect on especially our poorer schools whose HEBs can't afford additional funding of additional posts. So for us, it will cause irreparable harm to our futures of our children and the quality of education and the rights of education for our children in the future.
Yeah,
this is only the start.
Yeah. I'm keen to hear what you make of, I suppose, the judgment that that the matter just isn't urgent, and that the decision to cut posts was already known in July and August this year. Speaking to, I suppose, the timing of your own court action.
Yes, I think it's the respondents, Western Cape Education Department, made a big play in the court hearings of that aspect of urgency. But the fact of the matter is that if we had lodged this interdict as early as September, when it became known to us, then it would have been probably regarded as premature. So let me just give you the timelines in terms of our becoming aware of the matter of the cutbacks.
Sure.
So we were invited by COSATU to a meeting on the 29th of September this year, which we attended, and where we became aware of the documentation and the challenges related to the termination of the 2,400 odd posts. We because we were not on the circular of the department, we only became aware of the issues at this meeting. Subsequently, we participated in discussions with teacher unions and stakeholders at NEDLAC and with other civil society organizations in trying to get to a solution. And rushing to court was not something we were easily going to resort, and wanted to explore all possible avenues. When Treasury made an announcement at the end of November that they were committing an additional 250 million to the department, we felt that the matter was going in the right direction. However, we learned that the Western Cape Department was proceeding with termination of the 2,407 posts, notwithstanding the additional funding. And then we had to intensify our efforts. So on the 4th of December, 2024, this year, we formally joined the NEDLAC proceedings in discussions with the department with the Western Cape Education Department. Then on the 6th of December, we received a deadlock certificate from NEDLOC because those negotiations went nowhere. And that is when we decided we had to do something urgently to request the department or the court to rule and put a moratorium on those posts. So they could hear our arguments why we should not be reducing teachers. I mean, it is to be noted that the Western Cape is the only province in the country to go ahead with teachers' cutbacks. The other provinces have elected to find sources of funding from elsewhere on their budgets. Further, the Western Cape, through its allocation, equitable allocation of funds for education, for which 48% is supposed to be spent on education at the discretion of the provinces. They only spent 43% of that. 5% was diverted to other cost centers.
Right.
Overall, we regard this decision as irrational and devastating.
Yeah. Let me step in here, Terrence, because you talk about how, these cuts really are affecting all 9 provinces, but it is, as you mentioned, the Western Cape only that is letting go of those 2,000 posts, 2,407 to be exact. And in fact, some media houses have already spoken to the Western Cape MEC for Education, David Mania, and he has said that they opposed your application because it had inaccurate and misleading claims. This is while he was speaking to News 24. And in there, he's quoted as saying the national government's decision not to fully fund the 2023 multi-year wage agreement resulted in a massive deficit for provincial education departments. We're not the only province affected. But he goes on to say some permanent teachers will be asked to move to another school where there is a suitable vacancies, and some contract teachers will not be reappointed after their contracts end. So it seems like what he's talking about is really moving things around and that there simply isn't the money. What do you think is going to be the steps that are taken in 2025 then?
I mean, this is obfuscating the issue. Let me explain. I mean, SAC consists of members. Our membership consists of retired teachers, retired principals, educators, and people both with people from civil society, the public in other words, involved in adult education and early childhood development, ECDs. So our spectrum of expertise within SAC covers the full range of the education in this country and a knowledge of how things work within the ambit of the Act. So the fact of the matter is that there will be 2,407 less teacher posts. And this shifting around of permanent teachers and so on doesn't mean that they're not going to cut posts. They're cutting posts, so those posts will disappear, and history tells us in terms of what's happened in the past. For example, in 1993 and 1996, Education Department nationally went through a rationalization of teacher posts, and which resulted in increased sizes of classes, which of course mostly affected the poorer and impoverished communities, schools that are located in those communities. Those posts were never recovered. Now we're talking about 2,407 teacher posts disappearing.
Tell me what that does to quality of education. I mean, this is at a time as well when we have had conversations around, 8 out of 10 of our grade 6 learners unable to read for meaning, which is a really concerning study. But what do you think these teacher posts will, if they will, have an impact on the quality of education and certainly the quality of learners that we're producing?
Well, obviously, with less teacher posts, each school will have a number of teachers cut, ranging from 4 teachers to, in some cases, 7 teachers will be lost at a particular school. And how do they accommodate now? And student numbers are growing.
Yeah.
So how are they going to cope with it? They obviously have to look at measures. There's going to be increased numbers of pupils per classroom. Already we're talking about in excess of 50 as a result of these teacher cuts. It's going to be more difficult for teachers to manage those size classes, and give individual attention for the more weaker students in the class. Some of the schools will have to cut back on subjects, and normally the first subjects to go would be maths and science,
yeah,
and art, and music, and that obviously will impact on our ability to, in the future, for our kids to get decent jobs in a world that's becoming more technologically orientated.
Advanced, yeah.
Talk about the 4th industrial revolution. It's a global work environment these days, and we have to prepare our kids. Already we're rated as one of the lowest in Africa and in the world in maths and science.
Yeah.
And you mentioned already reading with meaning.
Yeah, a massive problem. Let's connect again in 2025. I believe that the organization, your very own, also set to continue to meet with the COSATU and other role players to deliberate over this ruling.